Hello, everyone, and welcome to HISD's Pep Talk brought to you by the Family and Community Engagement Department, where parents are empowering parents by sharing their experiences and best practices for parent organizations. I am Miss Lemon, a Family and Community Engagement Specialist, and today we will be hearing from two HISD parents who happen to be PTO presidents who have success with their parent organization recruitment efforts, and they will also be sharing some easy and effective recruitment strategies that any organization can do, whether they're new or already established. So, with that being said, if our two presidents can introduce themselves and tell a little bit about what they do on their campus, starting with you, Ms. Gail.
My name is Gail Mays. I'm the president of the Red Elementary PTO. I have two students at Red, a third grader and a fourth grader. And my job as PTO president is to just facilitate the PTO and lead a great group of parents who want to be more involved and create community at Red Elementary School.
I love it. I love it. And Miss Maria, how about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Maria Calzada, and I am a second year president at Carnegie Vanguard High School. This is my sixth year being at Carnegie. I had one child graduate in 22, and now my second child is a sophomore. So like I tell the parents there, it's doable. It's completely doable.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here today and speaking with the Family and Community Engagement Department. And we really want to get into recruitment today and what that looks like. And we know sometimes, especially for new PTOs, that can be a scary thing. But I want to hear about how you guys became president. Were you nominated? Were you recruited? Did you nominate yourself? And how have you been able to kind of take on this position?
I can tell a little bit about my experience. I was a general board member of the PTO, and this was coming out of COVID year, so this was 2021. And so we were on a PTO board meeting Zoom, and basically everyone else said not it first. So they said, one person said, like, I could be treasurer. One person said, I can be vice president. One person said, I can be secretary, parliamentarian. And then here I was, the last person to say I wouldn't do it. So I took on the mantle of PTO, basically saying, like, listen, we're a team. Like, we are a team. We are all in this together. I'm happy to put my name as president, but really that just means, like, I have an amazing team beside me doing the work. And so that's really how we operate our PTO is we're all a team, whether you're on the executive team member, whether you're on the general board, or whether you're an involved parent. Like, no one has better ideas than anybody else. Some of us may have been doing PTO for longer, but that's okay. We are happy to get you up to speed on all of the exciting things in PTO. And so it is an evolution of learning, right? Like, there's a lot of legal things you have to learn about as you're running a nonprofit organization, and there's a lot of historical things you're learning and cultural things you're learning about the school and what works and what doesn't work, but that's all. We can all teach that on the fly and through just the process of becoming more and more involved, parents learn all of the what the organization is about.
I totally love that answer. I love the way that you just wrapped that all up. Miss Maria, how about you? Were you nominated or did you go out for the position? What does that look like for you? Well, what did it look like for you?
Carnegie has been, I think of it as like a Goldilocks situation where, the kids there are expected to really kind of take on these adult roles It's very college prep, and we're left with a lot of parents who are used to being so involved and don't know what to do with that energy. And PTO is left there going, come.
Yeah, that's the perfect
Come
outlet.
And so that's kind of where I was as a parent, as a brand new parent, in 2018. And so I started off as a volunteer doing, we do senior awards, which are scholarships from the PTO. And that was my very first volunteer opportunity. So I ended up, chairing that towards the end of my first child's freshman year. And then COVID hit whenever I was a chair, and I'm an infectious disease specialist. I'm a PA in ID, and most people thought I would just drop everything. But ironically, I was able to actually get more involved because everything became remote. And I was like, oh, well, I can do remote. My problem has always been I can't get to the school. I was never one of those parents that could be at the school during school hours. That was always kind of my Achilles heel. So whenever COVID, hit, they lost people from the board. And the Susan Hawes, who was the president at the time, asked me to be on the board. And I said, well, actually, I'd wanted to be on the board, but it kind of felt a little bit like, cool kid club. A lot of PTOs are like that. And that's actually been one of our goals, is to open things up and make it a little bit more welcoming, that it's okay if you don't know somebody who knows somebody. Let's let anybody come on in. And we've made some of those changes. So long story short, one of the side effects of COVID has been that we have kept the online dominant presence because we're 100% magnet at Carnegie. No one is zoned to Carnegie. So we have students that come from the furthest reaches of HISD. And that means we have parents that, can't necessarily pop over from their house. Some of us do happen to live very close to the school, but that's just happenstance. So we want to welcome parents that work, parents that don't work, parents that live close, parents that don't live close. We don't assume that anybody is just at home waiting to just hop over. So that's how I got involved, and that has given us perspective to welcome others to get involved.
And I love how you said to make sure parents that work, parents that don't work, recruiting parents that maybe can only be virtual. I think that that's very special that we let parents know, like, hey, you don't have to be the parent that's always here every day. Involvement can be in different ways. Recruitment can be in different ways. So, Ms. Maria, you also spoke about how you were at a school where you had to start the PTO from the ground up. So what did that recruitment process look like? What were some challenges, and how did you guys overcome those challenges?
So that was at Emerson Elementary many moons ago. That was for my student who graduated in 22. And that was a dual language program. And so Spanish is my first language. So that was helpful because first of all, we wanted to make sure that we were following the rules. At that time, I don't know if FACE existed or not, but we didn't feel like we had any HISD resources. Perhaps they were there and we didn't know about them. So we use PTO Today, which is like a online resource,
Yes,
to kind of give us the template.
a great resource.
Yeah. So we did a lot of copy paste kind of things, and did a lot of translation. We did everything in Spanish and English, and we knew that most of our families didn't have a lot of resources, so we made sure that we were, modest in our ask. Our budget was like, I think, $2,000 for our annual budget. And we just asked all families to contribute, I think like $5 per family. And so we just kept everything small and simple, and we try to always look at it from the perspective of, if you don't know what a PTO is and you don't know what a PTO does, how can we communicate those two pieces of information? And then every meeting, I would start the meeting and ask who here speaks English, who here speaks Spanish. And if everyone spoke Spanish, but not everyone spoke English, then I conducted all the meetings in Spanish. So it was about communicating our message and making sure that people knew what they were supposed to get out of PTO. Because a lot of times some people really don't know what the point is. Like, why are we even getting together?
Speaking of communication, I think that's really, really big when it comes to PTOs and making sure that all of our families know everything, especially when we're recruiting PTOs. So I also, Ms. Gill, wanted to ask you, when it comes down to the communication aspect and recruiting, what have you noticed as PTO president? What activities have worked for you when it comes down to making sure you're communicating with families and making sure you're also recruiting them at the same time?
Well, we try and recruit families at a couple different stages in the process. The first activity at the school is the meet and greet. And so that's before school even starts. So we'll set up a table and just hand flyers out to everybody. I mean, it's super crazy. Everybody's got their kids, everybody's got the school supplies, everybody's trying to get to their new classroom. So it's just mass chaos. But we're there to provide information. So we'll give a flyer with a QR code to the website where they can learn more. But then we're also there for when we see that look in a parent's eye of, hey, someone who can answer a few questions for me. And so we'll stand there and chat with them. We usually try to have as much of our board there as possible, just to answer people's questions and be a friendly face. We also have events throughout the year, and because we're an elementary school, the events that we host are not drop-off events. They are family events. We call them free family fun events, because we want parents, we want grandparents, we want aunts, we want brothers and sisters to all be able to come to these events. And we found that those are really great recruiting times as well. Like, hey, this is free. Could you happen to scan this QR code and tell us a little bit about your family, and join the PTO? We are a no-cost PTO. That means that we love for families to donate whatever they can. And sometimes that's $5, sometimes that's nothing, sometimes that's $1,000. So we've received lots of different donations from families who are giving what they can. When we explain at every event, right, because they're free family fun, we've got parents, we've got grandparents. Someone from the executive team will get the microphone and give a rundown of what the PTO is, who we are, and why we exist. And once we're able to share that message, we found that we generally get a lot more phones out scanning the QR code to join the PTO. So it's kind of giving the same speech over and over again. We talk a lot about how it takes a lot of touches to get someone involved. It's not going to be the first time. Like, I bless the people that join the PTO at meet and greet. Like, that's great. We want those people. We want the volunteer who have that volunteer gene, who get joy from that. We want those people, but we also want the people that, hey, maybe they come to the last meeting of the year. Maybe it's only after they've come to 5 free family fun events that they say, like, oh, maybe there is a place for me here. Once they see all the different types of parents and grandparents that we have on our PTO board, it's not just stay-at-home moms, kind of like Maria said, it's not just people that live close to the school. It's people that are driving in. It's people who speak different languages and who maybe have kids who are in a sped classroom, rather than the number one kid in the class. They realize like, oh, there's a place for me because the PTO involves all kids. We include all types of families. So maybe it's the May family, the May parent that comes to a PTO event, that it took a year's worth of them seeing the PTO and who we are and what we do and who we include, which is everyone, to come along board. And we love that too.
So, Miss Maria, you, just based on everything that you've told me now, it seems like you have a lot of experience when it comes down to PTO, and just kind of being in leadership and taking on roles, whether that's virtual or whether that's in person. So let's say we have our members, we've done a great job at recruiting. How do we keep the interest of our members? How do we keep our members there? How do we keep them active? And how do we make sure that not only our board is playing a role, but every member in the organization has some type of role, and it's just their interest is always being there? How do we make sure to keep that?
That is a challenge, and that's something that we're actively working on. So one thing that we've been trying to do, and one of my goals for the end of my presidency, like something I'd like to leave, one thing that we were able to achieve is we got Microsoft's grant for nonprofits. And so what that does is it gives us their suite of software and access to a bunch of programs, and all of it for free, as long as we're using it for officers, for our chairs, for our committees. It has to be obviously used for the nonprofit. And so what that has allowed us to do is kind of level up our organization so that, our emails with the cbhspto.org, all that stuff, we've moved everything over to that, so that now we've set up all of our volunteers with those usernames, those emails, which is not just emails, although it's nice that now all our volunteers are, those positions are assigned official emails. And so they're given not just the title of you're the chair of this committee, but you're given a toolbox, you're given an email, a username, a suite of programs. You're given all of these tools, and these are the people who have signed up to volunteer in your committee. You have agency now to do the work and do it in such a way that whenever you're done at the end of the year, all that work, is recorded in the OneDrive, all that stuff, electronically is kept, so that the next chair has it. So we're not starting over, because, and Gail probably knows what I'm talking about. It's like, sometimes it feels like every year the slate is wiped clean, and you feel like, why am I reinventing the wheel? Why does every year feel like brand new? You're solving the same problems. I mean, it really shouldn't be that way. Most school years follow the same pattern. School years are very repetitive, with small exceptions. And so this is in hopes that we kind of make it so that each year is better and better and better. And yeah, exactly. And so giving our volunteers agency to do these things, because we're all parents. We're all just parents and volunteers. Like I being president, Gail being president. We are not, there's no magic wand. We're not better. We're not queens, right? We're the same as any other volunteer. And so we want to give anybody who volunteers that same happy feeling that they're doing something very important, and it doesn't matter what role they're volunteering in. So I think that keeps people engaged, that in whatever they choose to do. But I always tell anybody who comes to a meeting or to an event, time, talent, or treasure. You don't have to do all three. It's great if they do, but those are the 3 T's. Like, give me something. Give me your time, give me your talent, or give me your treasure. And then you have accomplished something for your students.
I love that.
How I keep it.
I think that's just a great way a good note to end on. Before we wrap up, because we're at the end of our webinar, but I wanted to ask you guys, what is one phrase or maybe a small saying that you would leave with a PTO that is just starting and they are trying their hardest to recruit parents and get parents in the door? What is one thing that you would leave with them? Starting with you, Ms. Gill.
The personal ask goes a long way. People have a hard time saying no to you if you ask them personally. And you start small and you go from there, right? So it started with me just asking my friends, asking my son's friends, asking the people that I knew from my son's classes, hey, would you mind coming to the PTO meeting this Wednesday? Like, we're going to talk about art club, and I know that you're really interested in this, or I know that your son is interested in art. Would you mind coming and letting us know your thoughts? Or, you know, I see someone in the pickup line, and I say, hey, I'm Gail. I'm the PTO president, and I don't know if I've ever seen you at an event. We're having an event this Friday. Are you planning on coming to the movie night? Because we would love for you to come. And and I'm only one person, right? So I can only ask as many people as I can ask, but that's kind of how I taught our board to approach things. Just let's start with who you know, and then hopefully those people will know people who will know people. And that's one of the things that I personally do. But also we use the school's resources that are already in place. So like the school communication resources, our school uses Dojo. It's an app where the school communicates.
It's Love Class Dojo.
Love Class Dojo. So that's what Red uses, and they gave an account to the PTO. So we're able to advertise and to push to all of the families. So then it's not just people I know. Me asking people I know, it's blasting to the whole school, and it's making sure that parents receive that in a dual language format. And the great thing about Dojo is that it does have a translator app in there. So even though all of our graphics we try and do in English and Spanish, it can also translate to any language, so that families who maybe are outside of the English-Spanish bubble also will be able to understand what PTO is and who we are.
So what about you, Ms. Maria? To wrap up, what is one phrase or a saying that you would leave with new PTOs that are trying to recruit?
At high school, at least at Carnegie, for us, my appeal to parents, to families, to friends is that we are basically, we get a private school education for public school dollars. So we owe that school staff, the students, something, and I believe that in my heart. So you can call it a guilt trip, but that's how I feel about it, truly. And so you know, and perhaps that may not work at every school, but that is my sales pitch. I try to get people to give back, and if they want to maintain that. And so you can probably generalize that to say that I would focus on the students. If you care about the students at whatever school you're at, then, you know, make it about them.
Yeah, student achievement is the goal. Thank you guys so much. Ms. Gail and Ms. Maria, you guys have so much PTO wisdom, and I'm sure that our PTO organizations, especially our new PTO organizations, are going to love this. Thank you so much for participating in HISD's Pep Talk. Once again, I am Ms. Lemon, your lovely presenter, and we had our PTO presidents on today, Ms. Gail and Ms. Maria. Thank you again.